The Merkava Mark IV is not just a tank. It's a symbol of Israel's unique approach to modern armored warfare. For decades, the Israel Defense Forces have been developing their own indigenous main battle tanks, crafted specifically around the lessons of their battlefield experience. The Merkava line, which began development after the Yom Kippur War, has always been centered on a single priority: crew survivability. While most tank programs around the world balance firepower, mobility, and protection in roughly equal measure, the Merkava turns that equation upside down. Protection comes first, then firepower, then mobility. The Merkava Mark IV, which entered service in 2004, is the culmination of this design philosophy, and many experts consider it one of the most effective tanks in the world today. Let's start with the design. The Merkava Mark IV looks different from almost any other main battle tank you might be familiar with. Most modern tanks, like the American M1A2 Abrams, the German Leopard 2, or the Russian T-90, place the engine at the rear of the vehicle. The Merkava is different. Its designers decided to put the power pack, meaning the engine and transmission, in the front of the tank. This unusual layout gives an extra layer of protection to the crew compartment, since any incoming round has to penetrate the engine before it even reaches the crew. It also allows the Merkava to have a rear compartment that can serve as a troop carrier or medical evacuation bay, fitting up to 6 infantry soldiers or several stretchers. This makes it one of the most versatile tanks ever built, with the ability to double as an armored personnel carrier in emergency situations. The Mark IV has a very angular design, optimized for deflecting projectiles and shaped to accommodate modular armor. One of the most remarkable aspects is that this armor is fully modular, meaning damaged sections can be replaced in the field, keeping the tank operational. Over the years, Israel has continuously upgraded the armor packages to adapt to new threats, including tandem charge warheads and improvised explosive devices. But the most important leap in protection came with the integration of the Trophy Active Protection System. The Merkava IV was the first tank in the world to be equipped with an operational active protection system as standard. Trophy uses radar to detect incoming anti-tank missiles or rocket-propelled grenades, and then fires a small countermeasure to intercept and destroy them before they strike. This system has been combat tested and has saved Merkava crews in real engagements, setting a new global standard for tank survivability. Now, let's talk about firepower. The Merkava IV mounts a 120mm smoothbore gun developed in Israel, capable of firing a wide range of modern munitions. It is fully compatible with NATO standard rounds, but it also has access to Israel's unique suite of ammunition, including the Lahat missile. This is a laser-guided missile that can be fired from the main gun tube, allowing the Merkava to hit enemy tanks, armored vehicles, or even low-flying helicopters at ranges up to 8 kilometers. That flexibility gives the Merkava an edge in diverse combat scenarios. The fire control system is equally advanced, with a modern digital battle management suite, thermal imaging sights, and hunter-killer targeting capability. That means the commander can designate one target while the gunner is engaging another, significantly speeding up reaction time in a fight. The stabilization of the main gun allows the Merkava to fire accurately on the move, and it has been praised for its first-round hit probability, even under battlefield stress. Secondary armament includes a coaxial 7.62mm machine gun, an additional 7.62mm mounted on the loader's hatch, and sometimes a 50 caliber heavy machine gun above the main gun to deal with soft targets and light vehicles. The tank can also mount mortars that can be fired from inside, giving it the ability to provide indirect fire support against infantry and defilade. Altogether, the Merkava Mark IV's armament ensures it is not just a defensive stronghold, but an offensive powerhouse. Performance-wise, the tank is powered by a 1,500 horsepower diesel engine, giving it a top speed of around 64 kilometers per hour on roads and somewhat less on rough terrain. It is not the fastest tank in the world, but remember, Mobility was intentionally deprioritized in favor of protection. That said, its mobility is more than sufficient for the operational environment of Israel, which involves relatively short distances, rugged terrain, and urban areas. The suspension is designed to handle rocky ground, and the wide tracks help distribute its roughly 65-ton weight. While some critics argue that it is not suitable for long-distance maneuver warfare like what you might see in Europe, Israeli doctrine does not require that. The Merkava is designed for Israel's specific threats and geography, and in that context, its mobility is perfectly adequate. One of the most remarkable features of the Merkava program is its continuous adaptation. The Mark IV has seen steady upgrades since entering service, particularly in its electronics, sensors, and armor systems. Israel keeps its tanks technologically refreshed, meaning that the Merkava Mark IV in service today is far more advanced than the one that entered service 20 years ago. The Trophy Active Protection System alone is a game-changer, and it has influenced tank design worldwide. The U.S. Army, after seeing its performance, has installed Trophy on some of its Abrams tanks as well. Now let's address the real-world performance. The Merkava Mark IV has seen combat in several major operations, including conflicts in Lebanon and Gaza. Reports from the field highlight its survivability and effectiveness in engagements where older tanks might have been destroyed by anti-tank guided missiles. The Merkava's combination of heavy armor and Trophy APS allowed it to come out intact. For the crews, this is critical. Israel's population is small, and losing trained tank crews is a significant concern. That's why survivability was prioritized from the very beginning, and the Merkava 4 delivers on that promise. Many tank experts argue that in modern asymmetric warfare, where the main threats are missiles and improvised explosives, survivability is the most important metric, even more than raw speed or even firepower. How does the Merkava 4 compare with its peers? Compared to the American M1A2 Abrams, it is lighter and somewhat less mobile, but it has the advantage of the rear compartment and arguably better crew protection. Compared to the German Leopard 2A7, it is in the same class in terms of firepower, but again differs in philosophy, with the Leopard focusing on mobility and firepower balance, while the Merkava focuses on protection. Against Russian designs like the T-90, the Merkava is considered far more advanced in terms of protection and fire control systems. So while it may not be the fastest or the sleekest, the Merkava 4 is almost universally respected for being extremely difficult to kill and very effective in the battlefield environment it was designed for. Let's now move into the price aspect. Estimating the price of a Merkava Mark IV is not straightforward, since Israel does not openly publish detailed costs, and the price can vary depending on upgrades and packages. However, most open-source estimates put the cost at around $3.5 to $4.5 million per unit. That places it in the same ballpark as other Western main battle tanks, sometimes slightly cheaper depending on the configuration. For comparison, an M1A2 Abrams can run $6 to $8 million depending on the variant, while a Leopard 2A7 can also be above $6 million. Russian tanks like the T-90 are generally cheaper, sometimes under $3 million, but they also lack many of the advanced features of the Merkava. So the Merkava offers a very competitive cost-to-capability ratio. It is not a bargain basement tank, but it delivers exceptional protection and advanced technology at a reasonable price for its class. It's also worth noting that the Merkava is primarily built for Israel itself, and unlike the Abrams or Leopard, it is not widely exported. Israel has kept the Merkava program mostly domestic, both for security reasons and because its unique design is tailored to Israeli doctrine rather than global markets. However, some of its technologies, like the Trophy, APS, have been exported and adopted worldwide. In a sense, the Merkava serves as Israel's testbed for cutting-edge tank technologies, and its success has influenced armored vehicle development everywhere. For potential buyers, if Israel ever decides to export the Merkava Mark IV more widely, it would likely appeal to countries facing similar threats. dense urban combat, heavy use of anti-tank guided missiles, and an emphasis on crew protection. The price tag, while not low, is more than justified by the combination of survivability, advanced electronics, and versatile design. And unlike some tanks that rely heavily on foreign supply chains, the Merkava benefits from Israel's domestic defense industry, which ensures consistent upgrades and a strong maintenance ecosystem. Critics sometimes point out that the Merkava is not as suitable for open-field, long-range maneuver warfare, which remains a factor in Europe or potential conflicts between large powers. Its somewhat slower top speed and heavy weight can be seen as disadvantages in those contexts. However, every tank is a compromise. The Abrams sacrifices fuel efficiency for raw speed and firepower. The Leopard emphasizes mobility and fire control. The Merkava sacrifices a bit of mobility to maximize survivability. Each is shaped by the doctrine of its nation, and when judged by Israel's requirements, the Merkava Mark IV is arguably the best possible choice. In summary, the Merkava Mark IV is a tank built from hard lessons, with the blood of past wars shaping its armor. Its front-mounted engine, modular armor, rear compartment, and trophy-active protection system make it unique among modern tanks. Its 120mm smoothbore gun and advanced fire control keep it competitive with any peer in terms of offensive power. Its mobility, while not world-leading, is more than adequate for the terrain and operations it was designed for. And its price, hovering around $4 million per unit, offers a solid value compared to tanks in the same class. More importantly, it has a combat record that proves it works in real wars, not just on paper. For Israeli tank crews, it is more than a machine. It is a lifeline, a shield, and a weapon of survival. If you are looking at tanks as symbols of national doctrine, the Merkava 4 tells you everything about Israel's priorities. Protect the crew, survive the hit back harder, and never stop upgrading. It may not be the tank you'd pick for a blitzkrieg across Europe, but in its role, it is arguably unmatched. That makes the Merkava Mark IV one of the most interesting and important tanks of the 21st century, a vehicle that redefines what it means to balance offense and defense on the modern battlefield.